Hello, everyone. And now you'll hear a brief summary of the movie Love, Rosie. Enjoy watching. Alex and Rosie met in early childhood and have been inseparable ever since. On their 18th birthday, Rosie got quite drunk and kissed her best friend. However, right after that, she fell under the bar counter. But the next day, Rosie felt embarrassed and asked Alex not to tell anyone what happened yesterday because they had to take the birthday girl to the hospital and pump her stomach. At the beach, Greg flirts with Rosie, while Alex is persistently pursued by Bethany, but he gets too flustered when talking to her. Rosie teases her friend, claiming it's all because he's a virgin. But the friends were planning to go to the dance together, but they changed their minds now. Rosie has already been asked by Greg, but Alex went to negotiate with Bethany. In the computer class, a jubilant Alex told his friend that he's not a virgin anymore, thanks to Bethany. Rosie exclaimed in frustration, and the mischievous teacher projected their correspondence onto the board and sent the girl to the principal's office. Alex checked in on his friend to ask her for help with a butterfly. He joked about Rosie having feelings for him. They arrived at the dance together, but Greg quickly whisked Rosie away to showcase his dance moves. However, Rosie kept glancing at Alex and Bethany, who had her lips locked with his. Determined not to fall behind, she decided to sleep with Greg. Yet the ineptitude of Greg dealing with a condom became a hurdle. Then everything happened so quickly that Rosie couldn't comprehend anything. But it was too early to relax, as it turned out the condom got stuck inside her. And now Rosie struggles to retrieve it while Greg mocks her. She fled the room and immediately called her friend for help, choosing him over staying with Bethany. This is how Rosie met Dr. Dick. After a bit more mishaps, Rosie finally returned home. In the car with Alex, she finally relaxed and laughed. He suggests Rosie escape the English countryside and both attend American universities together. Mom was against it, but Dad is ready to support his daughter. He's confident that someday she'll fulfill her dream and open her own hotel. After all, he himself was always a small person and wishes the best life for Rosie. Upon receiving a letter from Boston, she immediately rushed to tell her friend that she got accepted. However, at the doorstep, Alex's sister intercepted her and suggested waiting for him downstairs. Moans from Bethany were audible from upstairs. Rosie endured it for a while, but then it made her nauseous, and she hurriedly vomited into her purse. She's been feeling nauseous every day, and the pharmacist MS. Kurjaga suggested she use a pregnancy test instead of pills. But she can do it right there. Soon, explicit profanities could be heard from the bathroom. She's pregnant. As always, Rosie messaged her friend, but today he's meeting Bethany's parents and, for the first time, couldn't provide her with support. Rosie has no idea what to do next, and tears welled up in her eyes. When they met with Alex at the cafe, the cheerful guy informed her that he got accepted to Harvard. However, Rosie lied that she hadn't received a response from Boston yet. So, he's flying alone for now, and Rosie will somehow catch up with him later. As a farewell gift, Alex gave Rosie a keychain, and they hugged tightly. They hesitated to kiss for a long time and never did. Rosie managed to befriend the pharmacist Ruby and shared her emotional struggles with her. The girl still couldn't bring herself to get rid of the child, even though the baby disrupted all her plans that she had already mapped out for her entire life. But maybe she can still make her plans come true. Just half a year later, winter arrived. Rosie never told Alex about her pregnancy. She's having a girl, and she plans to give the baby to a social worker immediately after birth. But then the whole family started to melt at the sound of the baby hiccuping in the womb. After that, Rosie no longer wanted to use her belly as a popcorn holder. One night, she advised her daughter on how to stop hiccuping and accidentally called her Katie. Rosie gave birth at home with the help of a midwife. A social worker is waiting downstairs. Rosie wished to hold the baby as a farewell gesture, but she didn't want to let her go anymore. Katie is a restless baby and doesn't let her mother sleep at night. My life is ruined, Rosie confessed, but it's not as bad as it seems. The key is to follow the young mother's rules. One day on the street, she bumped into Bethany, and to avoid being recognized, she tried to hide behind the stroller. However, this led to an accident. "It's not yours, is it?" the blonde asked disdainfully. Katie understood that her mom needed help and grabbed the mean girl by her hair. Alex returned from Boston for the weekend and asked to come into the house. Rosie tried to hide her secret, but Bethany had already told him everything. Rosie complains that her whole life now revolves around feeding, rocking, and diapers. By the way, when Greg learned about the baby, he immediately found a job in another country. Alex wanted to become Katie's godfather. Rosie didn't confess for so long because she wanted to remain that smart and promising girl for someone. Alex supported her, but soon flew back to Boston. There, a quirky guy joined him and struck up a conversation. Phyllis sent her sister, who wanted to get to know Alex. After a while, they started living with Sally in the same apartment, and Rosie finally moved out from her parents' place and got a job as a housemaid. On the cover of a magazine, she saw the hated Bethany, who had become a famous model. Soon, Katie started school, and her mom got involved with a police officer. The girl asked if he was her father. The handcuff key didn't fit, so Rosie rushed to her daughter's class with a headboard for the bed. Years later, Sally revealed her true colors and turned out to be a fussy nag who's constantly dissatisfied with something. Rosie and Alex are completely different people. Rosie understands him much better. So when Rosie flew to America, they were thrilled to meet each other. But finally, the young mother could detach and relax. At the party, a guy came up to her to introduce himself and immediately disappeared upon learning she had a daughter. But the friends threw Alex into the pool, and he pulled Rosie in with him. They goofed around and had fun until the early morning. It's strange for Rosie to realize that she could have lived the same life as her friend. But she certainly doesn't regret having Katie. Rosie wanted to kiss Alex, but he didn't reciprocate. Instead, he took her home. Sally prepared an exquisite meal and confessed to the guest that she and Alex are already 12 weeks pregnant. Suddenly, the blonde started hysterically, accused Alex of using foul language, and when Rosie and her friend giggled, she even threw the food on the floor. Right away, she acted as if nothing had happened and invited everyone to the vernissage she had organized. Rosie is upset. She still got caught up in a shared future with Alex, but it seems he's now completely lost to her. She left the event, calling the Artist Herbs exhibition complete rubbish. Rosie was hurt by her friend. They had fun all night while the pregnant girl waited for him at home. She also concluded that Alex is in a mess, and none of this is for him. In response, he spoke a bunch of nasty things to her. The friends fell out, and Rosie returned to her routine. She found a drawing from her daughter, who dreams of a complete family, and sent it to Greg. Surprisingly, the young man took the very next flight to England, but Rosie says she sent the letter on a whim, and Greg can't just show up before Katie after so many years. But Greg remained the same smug jerk, but he swears he can change. Rosie agreed to give him one chance, and Greg is really making an effort. He spends all his free time with the family. Moreover, his impressive physique didn't go unnoticed by Rosie, and she dragged him into bed. Only Ruby doesn't mince words. She reminded her friend of the condom incident, but Katie blossoms when she sees him, and Rosie got tired of waiting for someone. She really feels good with Greg. Soon, Alex received an invitation to a wedding, but only his sister attended the ceremony. That's how Rosie married Greg, and they moved in together. Alex stopped responding to her calls. They also parted ways with Sally. He moved out of her apartment. Katie also got herself a best friend, just like her mom. Rosie finally decided to call Sally. She learned that she and Alex broke up 2 months ago, and she went into labor on the day of her wedding. By the way, a presumptuous artist named Herb took Alex's place in her life. He turned out to be the father of her child. Another 5 years passed. Katie is 12 now, and she's driving her mom crazy like a typical teenager. The parents sold their property and went traveling. After 12 years of work at the hotel, Rosie was promoted to a receptionist. Bethany, who by this time had become a global celebrity, stopped by. Rosie, without thinking, told her that Alex was living in Boston and that he could use a friend there. One day, Rosie received a call from her mom informing her that her dad had passed away. Alex also came for the funeral. He and Rosie met for the first time in many years. Greg got drunk and behaved awfully. He cursed and was rude to Alex. Before leaving, he wrote a love letter to Rosie, but it ended up in Greg's hands. Additionally, a letter from her father arrived just now, sent from France just before his death. In it, he confessed that for decades he had been waiting for the moment when he could finally enjoy life. And that moment had finally come, and Rosie also has to fulfill her dreams. She shared her plans with her daughter about taking her share from selling the family home and buying a small hotel. Alex tries to figure out if Rosie is happy or not, but it's too late to speculate. She has her family. Ruby saw that Greg had booked a honeymoon suite in one of their chain hotels. Apparently, he was planning a surprise for Rosie on their anniversary. But just then, Greg called and informed her that he would be delayed on a business trip for a few more days. The TV program, however, showed that a couple had checked into that room 2 hours ago. The friends rushed to the hotel. Greg was having a pleasant conversation with some girl who then threw a drink in his face. Thus, the family life was over. While getting rid of Greg's belongings, Rosie opened a drawer in the desk and found an old letter from Alex. In it, he confessed that he had missed her twice before but would not make that mistake again. He's the only one who can make her happy. Rosie immediately wrote to Alex, but it was Bethany who replied instead, turning on video call. Rosie only now found out that she and Alex have moved in together. Moreover, they are getting married in 6 weeks. The couple wants Rosie to be Alex's best man. It's certainly strange, but it was she who brought them back together. Ruby insists that even now Rosie shouldn't give up and should fight for the man. She must sabotage the wedding. The friends, along with Katie and her friend Toby, arrived at the airport in the USA. They were welcomed by Phil, and Rosie and Ruby instantly agreed to get married. Rosie can't believe that life can be so simple. The company arrived at the church. Unfortunately, Rosie didn't make it in time. The ceremony took place. In the evening at the banquet, she gives a speech about the importance of choosing the right person to spend your whole life with. Otherwise, you realize one day that the years have passed in vain. Sometimes, you might not even notice that person, even if they were always by your side. Defying everything, she ended by saying she will always love Alex. But just before a scandal could erupt, she added, like a sister loves a brother. Alex even shed a tear. Both Rosie and Alex cry as Rosie's beloved dances the waltz with his wife. Suddenly, Toby kissed Katie, and she, opposite, ran to the roof. Alex and Rosie went to calm her down. Alex tried to convince the girl that rejecting Toby could be a big mistake, essentially describing his own life. Only now did he realize that Rosie had simply forgotten about the kiss on her 18th birthday due to the alcohol she had consumed, which is why they didn't go to the dance together. Rosie said her goodbyes to the newlyweds and headed home. She bought an old building, renovated it with the support of her friends, and finally fulfilled her dream by opening a hotel. On the same day, the first guest checked in. He feels like he has seen Rosie somewhere before. Alex came to the hotel without his wife. He and Bethany didn't understand that it wouldn't work out for them. Rosie took Alex to his room. There, he finally asked her to dance. If you enjoyed my retelling, please support the channel with a comment of more than 4 words. It greatly helps promote the video. Goodbye.